On the highest mountain on Earth, there's one tiny movement that kills more climbers than almost anything else. It's not a fall, it's not an avalanche. It's something that takes 2 seconds. A climber simply takes off a glove, and from that moment, the clock starts ticking toward their death. This is why most Everest climbers die after they take off their gloves. To understand it, you have to understand where this happens. The death zone. It's everything above 8,000 meters. A place where the body is already dying. Up there, there's barely a third of the oxygen you're breathing right now. And the cold is beyond anything most people can imagine. We're talking 40 below and colder. That's the stage for this tragedy. Now picture the climber's hands. They're wrapped in huge, thick down mittens. Those mittens keep the hands alive in that killing cold. They're a lifeline, but they have one terrible weakness. They make your hands almost useless. With those mittens on, your fingers are warm, but you can barely grip, clip, or feel anything at all. And it's a problem with no good answer. Mountaineers have argued about it for decades. If you could just wear giant mittens the whole way and never take them off, frostbite would be rare. But the moment you need to lace a boot, fit a crampon, or clip a rope, those mittens are useless. So every climber faces the same impossible trade: warm and clumsy, or nimble and exposed. There's no perfect choice. And that's the trap, because the mountain constantly demands fine work from your fingers. You have to clip a carabiner onto a rope, adjust your oxygen mask, fix your crampons. And with those giant mittens, that work is almost impossible. You fumble. You fail. So the climber makes the most natural decision in the world. Just for a second, they take a glove off. And in our age, there's a new and deadly reason climbers bare their hands. The photo. They've reached the top of the world. Of course, they want to capture it, to share it. So off comes the glove to tap a phone screen or work a camera, just for the shot. And that single, very human urge, the need for a summit photo, has cost climbers their fingers, sometimes much more. And that single decision is where so many climbers begin to die, the moment the skin is bare. Because at that altitude, in that cold, frostbite doesn't take hours, it takes minutes. The savage wind strips the warmth from the exposed skin almost instantly. The climber thinks, "I'll just be quick." But the mountain doesn't care about quick. It freezes flesh in moments. And here's the first cruel twist. The damage starts before the climber even feels it. The fingers go numb, the pain fades, and that numbness feels almost like relief. But it's not relief. It's the sign that the flesh is freezing solid. The climber has lost the very warning that would tell them to stop. And so they keep going. And it gets worse if they touch metal. A carabiner, an ice axe, a tool. Bare skin on freezing metal causes an instant freezing injury. The skin can bond to it. In a heartbeat, that patch of flesh is damaged beyond repair. One touch, one careless grab with a bare hand, and the harm is already done. And now comes the trap that closes around them. They try to put the glove back on, but the hand is already cold and stiff. The fingers won't bend the way they should. Getting that mitten back over a freezing, clumsy hand is suddenly desperately hard. And every second it takes, the hand gets colder, stiffer, and harder to save. The climber is now in a race they're already losing, and this is where one frozen hand becomes a death sentence for the whole body. It's a chain reaction. With a damaged, clumsy hand, every single task now takes longer. Clipping in, moving, everything. The climber slows down. And on Everest, being slow is the deadliest thing of all, because the longer you're up there, the more of your most precious resource you burn, your oxygen. And here's how the cold hand quietly drains the oxygen tank. The climber fumbles and struggles. Every fumbled clip, every slow, clumsy movement takes more time and more breath. The oxygen that was carefully calculated to get them up and down starts running low. And on Everest, when your oxygen runs out high on the mountain, it is very often game over. And now the body does something brutal to save itself, and it makes everything worse. When the brain runs low on oxygen, It starts shutting off blood to the hands and feet. It's protecting itself, the most important organ. But it's sacrificing the extremities to do it. So the hands get even colder, the frostbite gets even deeper. The spiral tightens. And do you see the trap now? It's a perfect, vicious circle. Each part feeds the next. Cold hands make you slow. Being slow burns your oxygen. Low oxygen freezes your hands more. And around it goes, pulling the climber down toward death. And it all started with one tiny innocent act: taking off a single glove. If this brutal mountain reality grips you, drop me a like. It helps me more than you know. And there's an even darker version of this story. Sometimes the climber takes the glove off for no reason at all. Because high in the death zone, the oxygen-starved brain stops thinking clearly. Confused climbers have been found having removed their gloves, their masks, even their clothes. Their dying brain told them to do something senseless. And in that cold senseless is fatal. And the price of these few exposed seconds is horrifying and permanent. It's not just pain. When flesh truly freezes, the cells are destroyed. That tissue is dead and cannot come back. And dead tissue means one thing: amputation. Climbers come home from Everest missing fingers. Some lose a fingertip, some lose an entire hand. All because, for a moment, they took off a glove. And these aren't rare horror stories. They happen on the mountain every single season. Climbers come home as heroes, having stood on the highest point on Earth. And then, weeks later, surgeons remove the blackened fingers the cold destroyed. A lifetime with a changed hand. The permanent physical price of a few exposed seconds in the death zone. And this is the part most people never think about. Everyone celebrates reaching the summit, but for some climbers, that photo on top is the most expensive picture of their life. They took off a glove to hold their camera to capture the dream, just for a moment, and they walked back down with the summit, but without their fingers. The mountain always takes its payment. And that's why the people who really know Everest treat their hands like gold, above almost everything. They never ever drop a glove. They keep a spare mitten tucked safely inside their suit. They use thin liner gloves to do fine work, so their skin is never fully bare, because they understand the brutal truth. On Everest, your hands are your life, and the cold is always waiting. And that's the chilling lesson of this whole story. The thing that kills you isn't always dramatic. It isn't always the storm or the fall or the avalanche. Sometimes it's the smallest possible act. A climber on top of the world, undone by taking off a glove. Because in the death zone, there are no small mistakes. Everything, even 2 bare seconds, can cost you everything. And that's the secret the mountain hides behind its beauty. It doesn't need a monster to kill you. It just needs you to make one tiny human mistake, one moment of fumbling, cold-handed need. The bare hand, the freezing wind, the numbness that feels like relief, and then the long, quiet spiral that the climber never even feels beginning until it's far too late. And now I'm curious about you. Did you ever imagine that something as small as taking off a glove could be the thing that kills you on Everest? And what do you think? Could you stay disciplined enough up there when every instinct screams at you to free your hands? Write your answer down in the comments. I'd really love to hear how you see it. And if this story gripped you or showed you something you never knew, I have one small favor to ask. Hit subscribe. It helps me more than you know, and you'll be here for every other secret from the mountains where lives are on the line. And drop one word in the comments, the first thing that came to your mind watching this. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. And if you love stories from the places where the human body is pushed to its absolute limit, hit subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments. Next time, we'll uncover another hidden secret from the highest mountain on Earth.